don't create, if you don't create a case number, it's not in the database and it gets away. So you're not helping yourself, you're not helping your neighbors, you're not helping the police by not registering a case. So I'm asking everyone, please keep this in mind, help everyone out. If something like this happens, call the police and get a case number so that it gets into the database and they know where to focus. I would like to see if I want to give some comments to our county executive, who have been very kind enough to come. Sydney Katz, thanks. Gabe Albornoz is supposed to be here in about 20 minutes. 20 minutes, yeah. So he's on his way. And then if we have Lily Chi remotely from Annapolis. She's on Zoom. She's on Zoom. Yeah. Lily Chi, let me start off with you because I know if you have to leave early, you can stay as long as you want. But if you have to leave early, I'd like to give you the first chance to speak. So we're going to unmute you and then Lily, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Sawa. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time from your family and probably dinners to join this important community conversation. I am Delegate Lily Chi. I apologize for not being able to join you in person because I'm currently in a special session to vote on a congressional redistricting map in Annapolis. But I'm very proud to represent our district, including Clarksburg. And I want to thank Sawa for his community leadership in convening this important meeting and all the officials and the police chiefs for being here. This is not unique to Clarksburg. I have heard from even my area where, it is North Potomac, where there are also a lot of families in a similar suburban environment. Middle of the night, there will be people coming out, jumping out of some car and randomly pull open the doors to see which car is not locked. And they would just, grab whatever they can. So I applaud the community for being vigilant, but I think we have reached a point where we cannot just be told to lock our cars. I think we need something more specific. We need some specific measures to put people at ease, because Montgomery County prides ourselves for being one of the best places in the world to raise families. I think community safety is a top priority. I looked at the video that Sawa sent over about the new technology, more precise cameras where you could actually see not just the people and their faces, but also car license tags. I think those are the things we should look into, including how the county and the state can pony up some dollars to actually fund certain technologies to help the community fight the crimes, because now this has become a major issue of concern. And as I said, it's not limited to Clarksburg. So I'm mostly here to offer support as a resource, as someone who also lives in District 15, represent this community, and also just to listen for possible solutions and see what we can do together. So thank you.
Thank you, Lily. You can stay on as long as you want. I know you have to leave. If you have to leave, that's fine, but I really appreciate you taking the time out to join us. I would like to now give Councilor Cindy Katz an opportunity to speak. Greg, if you can say a few words, and then we'll hand it over to the police, and then we'll start with the question and answer session.
Well, thank you very much. Can you hear me okay, or do you need to?
Okay, yeah. I'm getting a thumbs up on the screen. Thank you.
First off, thank you very, very much for getting this group together this evening, and we appreciate it. I am Sydney Katz. I'm the chair of the Public Safety Committee, and my friend and colleague, Gabe Albornoz, who just became president of the county council on Tuesday, so he's pretty much solved all the problems in the county already. But is going to be joining us as well. He's also a member of the Public Safety Committee. There's 3 of us on that committee. The third person is Tom Hucker. We stand, and Delegate Chi said it well, we stand here to be in support. Obviously, the key that we have heard time and time again, and she said we need to do more than just make certain that everybody locks their cars. That is certainly important, but the first thing we need to do is make certain everyone locks their car. This many times is and we're going to hear from the experts. You don't need me to guess what the experts are going to say, but many times this is a crime of opportunity. If that car door that you showed the video of was unlocked, then that person would have gotten in that car and stolen something or done vandalism. So we need to make certain that we look after our neighbors. We need to make certain that we are keeping up with technology, and we need to make certain that each of us, if you see something, call. Do not hesitate to call. That's what we're all here for, and we have a very, very fine police department that stands ready to work with us. I did point out that with us this evening, and you're going to hear from my third grade classmate, Greg Wims, who's the Up County Regional Director, but we do have Malcolm here, who is with the Gaithersburg Germantown Chamber of Commerce. We have Will Roberts here, and I always get your title confused, so I'm with several titles. Anyhow, we're all here to stand together to say that this is not acceptable, and we will work together to try to do our very best to correct what is going on. And with that, I'm going to turn to my friend Greg Wims.
Thank you, Councilman Katz, and I think you can hear me. Again, Greg Wims, Up County Regional Director. And as the councilman member just said, we stand with you. We want to hear, so you can tell us about what's happening. We work very closely with the police department also, and we will follow up with them. And I did want to just say this, though, that I've been on the job now 4.5 months. My second month in the job, this issue came up. County Citizen Advisory Committee. So we know that this is a very important issue to the community. And I just wanted you to know that I stand ready to take your information and then take it back to Montgomery County government, because I'm representing the county executive, and also I do report and give a report to the county council. So that's, well, I will say one last thing. Wims, W-I-M-S, across the street is my family school, Wilson Wims Elementary. So thank you.
Awesome. All right, great. So let's open the mic for Commander Palace. Would you like to give us a few comments on what's going on in the county? Also answer the 3 questions that I had. We'll put some credibility on the 3 theories that are going on.
Good evening. My name is Ed Palace. I'm the commander of the 5th district. That's the Germantown district, and that's where, if you're on this call, that's where you live. Sarwa, if it's possible, can I also share a video? Can I share my screen to show you another example?
Oh, yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
You can click on the share screen button on the bottom, the green one.
Yeah, I see it. It says the host has disabled participant screen sharing. I think that's why I need special permission.
Then go and put in make him the host. So go to
Make him the host.
more, and then there will be a make host right before that. No.
I think you should be able to share now.
Okay, try now.
All right, let me try. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is another example up in the Upper County. It's about 50 seconds, but this gives you an idea of what we all are collectively dealing with. And this was provided to me by Detective Jarrett, who's on the call. You'll see several young men enter from the right. They're hooded up and they're trying door after door after door. They arrive in a stolen car, more pile out, and they will continue to keep trying until they find one that's unlocked. When they find one that's unlocked, they go inside of it. Were you able to see the whole video?
Yep.
Okay. And so that's essentially what we're facing actually all over the country. And as Delegate Chief said, it's not just our communities here in Germantown, it's everywhere. And to answer your question about the 3 different options, it's really yes to all 3. It really does vary. I'm going to pass it over to Detective Jarrett here in just a second, but let me just share some numbers with you. My crime analyst, Tina Lowe, who I think is on the call, I asked her to put together some numbers for us for year to date. And to give you an idea, so if we start with Clarksburg Village, January 1 to December 1 of this year, your community had 22 theft from autos. 19 of them were unlocked. That's 86% of the thefts were from unlocked vehicles. There were 3 stolen vehicles. 2 of them were unlocked with the car keys inside. The reporting party said they didn't know if it was unlocked. If I had to bet a paycheck, I would bet that it was unlocked. Clarksburg Town Center, we had 3 theft from autos in this time period, almost a year time period. 2 of them were unlocked and 1 was locked with the keys inside. And again, if I had to take my guess, since there was no glass seen, anything like that, any signs of forced entry, I would guess that was probably unlocked. Aurora Hills, in this time period, almost a year, 8 theft from autos, 7 of them were unlocked. And Highlands had 0, you're the winner. Thank you very much. And so, I mean, I hate to state the obvious, but the #1 way you can prevent this from happening is to lock your doors. And we could see anywhere from a 66 to an 86% in reduction of these crimes simply by locking the doors. And again, Detective Jarrett is the SME on this. I'll let her expand. But as you can see, this is a numbers game for the most part to these young men and occasionally young women, but most of the time it's young men. And the thing is, with today's modern vehicles, there's no longer the slim jimming, there's no longer the breaking into them, because it takes too much time, effort, it makes too much noise. So why do that when you could just try 10 vehicles and you're going to come across, 1 or 2 unlocked very easily. Julie, did you want to jump in and add anything?
We need to unmute her. What is the last name for the full name?
Jarrett, Jarrett.
Okay, we're gonna unmute her.
Okay, yeah, I can jump in on some of that and just talk directly to those 3 theories that you presented. But again, it comes down to opportunity. It's juveniles, yes. I have what I call, and let me introduce myself quickly. I'm Detective Jarrett. I work in the 5th District in our Patrol Investigations Unit, and my primary responsibility within there is theft from auto. I handle a couple other things, but for the most part, theft from auto can keep me busy 40 hours a week, and right now, and then some. But looking at this, it's juveniles. Yes, I definitely have juveniles that are out there committing these crimes. It goes from the juveniles to the younger adults. I would say my primary age range of my suspects is 15 to 30. If I get much older than that, they're more of my geriatric crew coming in at 35 to 55, but those are few and far between. Adults using juveniles, I mean, adults and juveniles go out together because they're in that same general age range group when you're looking at, 16 to 22. But they're out committing these crimes together as a group. And then the other one, I couldn't hear exactly, but group coming basically from out of the area. Yes, we do have groups that come up out of the area, whether it would be outside of the Clarksburg area and just the surrounding communities. We've had groups come from Clarksburg that go to Clarksburg High School. When you look back about 4 or 5 years ago, they were coming from Germantown, but they have those ties to the Clarksburg community. And then there are groups that will, come from other areas outside of Clarksburg or the Upper County area. Any and all of it can happen. We've had all 3 examples in the 5th District in the last 3 months that I can pull off the top of my head. So it's not something that's unique to us, but again, it comes down to as simple as locking your cars is the best prevention. The second is don't have anything of value in your car. There is one guy that I can look at in particular that if he sees your wallet, he will force entry. And he breaks windows, and every car that he breaks a window in, he gets a wallet. I know exactly what store he goes to, where he uses those credit cards. But for the most part, I think I gave the commander a breakdown. You guys are in what's called our Mary 3 beat. I don't use the same stats I didn't analyze it the same way that our crime analyst did. So you also in my stats have some of the upper part of kind of what you would consider above Milestone Shopping Center also. And I believe that the only cars other than work vans that mentioned forced entry, I think it was 7 cars the entire year, had a broken window or some sort of obvious forced entry. Compared to the stats, it was an amazingly low number of cars that had an obvious forced entry, which leads us to believe that they were all unlocked. And along those lines, kind of in a prevention sense, I would encourage everyone, now that we have key fobs, which is a very easy way to A, steal a car when your key fob's in the car, and B, key fobs have proximity where it will unlock even if the key's not in the car. And we need to look at where our keys are in relationship to our car when we're not in the car. In some of these townhome communities that I've talked to, your car will unlock when your key's in your house and your car's parked by your house. So that's something that we would like people to be aware of. But that kind of touches on the 3 questions that you had and just some basic unlocked versus locked information.
Hey, Julie, while I still have you, and I know you're going to be limited in what you can discuss, but can you go into the most recent case we had with B&I without, so there's a couple questions. I see a question in the chat about have the police caught and prosecuted. We don't prosecute, that's for the state's attorney's office. We obviously arrest them and we charge them, which we have. And honestly, most of the way we get these people caught is through other crimes. And I'm going to ask Julie to chime in here in just a second, but just to give you an example, I just pulled up an arrest from one of our 5th district officers. He was out there on a quote routine traffic stop just 2 weeks ago. And he was in a high traffic area on a speeder. He then detected the odor of marijuana coming from the vehicle and figured out that the tags were stolen. The front seat passenger admitted to having a firearm, and he recovered a 9mm, what's known on the street as a ghost gun. It's a gun that's put together through parts with no serial number on it. And then they also had several other items which we're finding were theft from autos, and I think some of them in these HOA neighborhoods that we're on the call with now, and some of them in Gaithersburg. So it kind of shows you that the same crew was hitting a bunch of different places. And then more recently, I'll set it up this way. There was an ongoing operation with our Vice Intelligence Unit that Detective Jarrett was involved with. So she can't really go into, because it's an ongoing investigation. There were several search warrants done, several arrests done, but I think she can probably talk about the back end of that. Julie, is that safe?
I can talk about that. The speeder that was stopped with the gun, that traffic stop occurred in the Clarksburg area. The victims that I've been able to identify are, one is just outside of Gaithersburg, or I'm sorry, of Clarksburg, and then the other one was a Gaithersburg victim. I'm sure there were more victims, that's just what we can prove. In reference to the arrest involving our Vice Intelligence Unit, they were stopped in a stolen car. It was not a stolen car from Montgomery County, but inside that stolen car, I believe we had 21 victims of theft from auto that we were able to track down. As a result of additional ongoing investigation, I think I have about 16 more victims that I've identified. Some of those are coming back to Clarksburg, and I am now going through video from all sorts of areas within the 5th district, including Clarksburg, on nights that we can link them to and see what additional offenses that we can charge. But right now, from those arrests, we at least have those people off the street. And also, I'm going to touch on one other arrest that was not made by our district, but we have reason to believe that it had a positive impact in slowing down theft from auto, especially in Clarksburg. You guys were getting hit very hard starting the end of August through the end of October. And I would come into 20 reports some days. And there was an arrest by what's called a SAT team, which is plainclothes officers that have targeted enforcement. We had information on this group, and it was just they hit such a large area in such a fast amount of time. But through a lot of concerted effort by many of our patrol investigation units and our investigators in our stations, because they were stealing cars. Their primary goal was to steal cars, and they got a lot of cars out of Clarksburg. And when they can get cars, they keep coming back because that's what they want. They did make an arrest, and they got 3 individuals, and they also got a gun out of that car that I believe was a ghost gun. And that significantly slowed down the theft from autos. And in Clarksburg, in the month of November, I have 2 total cars that were reported broken into. So I could see from when they made that arrest to when like that sharp decline was all over the district. And I'm sure probably the entire Upper County area where we're getting hit hard. So yes, we can't prosecute everything, but what we get, we then work hard and try to get as many victims and prosecute, charge as much as we can, because that lets the courts see the impact that this has on our community. Because we want them to understand this is a victim. These people don't know each other. There's nothing other than the opportunity that they had to go through and create havoc, usually within a whole community.
Thanks, Julie.
Let me ask,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
let's go to the questions. There was a question from Professor Khan. Have police caught and prosecuted any of the culprits? So we understand police doesn't do the prosecution, but I want to use that same question and ask about juveniles, because there seems to be a lot of juveniles who are doing this. Do the police not bother because these kids are juveniles and it's a waste of time for them to come out and chase them, or are they prosecuted, or are they let go and they come out and do it again?
So not at all. If for us, it doesn't matter whether they're juveniles or adults, there's slightly different paperwork that we do. But no, it's not like we catch them and say, oh, you're just a juvenile and let them go. We do our job as far as making the arrest and filling out the paperwork. Now, where they go from the court system after that can be very frustrating with us, but that is out of our hands. So as far as the juvenile versus adults go, and I can tell you, before I was the 5th District Commander, I just started here in February, I was in charge of our major crimes division. And we had a major issue with carjackings in the county. And a lot of them were traced to juveniles from DC. And I'll be honest with you, it became very frustrating. And I think even our assistant state's attorneys were frustrated with the process, with them being juveniles and being released as quickly as they were to only go out and do carjackings the very next night. So very quickly, let me just explain how this works, because I've seen this from the major crimes perspective. I was a SAT officer, like Julie talked about, for 12 years. So the way this works is I always think it's like fishing. So I might go out on my own and find a fishing hole. I might try a couple different fishing holes, but if I find one that's very productive, then I'll invite my friends. I'll say, hey, Julie, hey, Joe, hey, Greg, I found a really good fishing hole up here in Clarksburg. Let's go fishing tonight. And when I'm, saying fishing, obviously I'm using it as a metaphor for stealing cars, but this is how they work. So I might do it myself one night, and then Julie and I might do it a different night. And then I might do it with Joe a different night. And then the next night, Julie and I might be completely out of it. Now Joe and a couple of his friends do it. So this is to answer some of the questions about patterns. In other words, do we have a specific day of the week? And Tina Lowe, I think if you're on the call, please correct me if I'm wrong. Tina's my crime analyst. But it's not easy as, oh yeah, it's every Tuesday between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. It is all across the board, unfortunately. So I just want to give you an idea that, as Julie said, every once in a while we do get a nice arrest, and it does stop for a little bit. But as quickly, especially if they're juveniles, as they get out, or even if it's me and Julie and we're put in jail for a little bit, well now, Joe and Greg have heard about it, so they're going to go up and fish for a little bit. So it's I hate to say it's a never-ending problem, but it is a never-ending problem. And it just is one of those things that unfortunately keeps us in business for quite a while.
Thank you for that. There's another good question that I'm going to read them out just to save time. Coming from Rebecca Kelly, has instances of these escalating into attempt to break into a house. So they come to the car, and then maybe they see the garage door open, or even if it's not open, Has there been instances where they try to break into the house when the people are sleeping?
I don't recall any in 5D. Do you, Julie? I know it's happened before.
We have not had any recently. Always the concern with that is, and it all starts with a theft from auto. Breaking into that car, people have the garage door openers in their car. I joke, I worked the road in Montgomery in the 5th district, and I worked Clarksburg for a fair portion of my career. Nobody in Clarksburg uses their garage. It seems like everybody's parked on the street, but they have those garage door openers. I've seen where they'll steal the cars out of the garage. We did have one of those in Damascus, I know, in this whole conglomerate. I've had them go into the houses before, but that's not something that's been happening. I don't think we've had any this year where we've actually had what started as a theft from auto, where they actually went into the house. Occasionally they'll get into the garage. And the other thing that I encourage people to do with that is make sure that you lock that door from your garage to the house, because that's that extra layer of protection. It's something I never thought of until I was doing this job. We never did that where I grew up. But that's something that I encourage people to do now is when you have the attached garage, lock that door from your house to the garage at night. And that's that extra layer of protection that should just deter anybody that's looking for the property crime here.
There's another question from Pat asks, does the county have a program that provides financial assistance to residents who install cameras? District of Columbia does that. Any of the council members want to answer? You can just speak.
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Gabe. I'm on the council, one of your council members at large. I'm not aware of that program in the county, nor am I aware of it in the District of Columbia, but we will certainly follow up and look into it.
Thanks, Gabe. So to dwell a little bit further on the question of cameras. So the cameras that people install on the houses, you can see a young man or young person with a hoodie walking up, trying to open and go away, but you can't recognize it. And the police cannot use that. So we have another possible solution that I'd like to bounce that idea off the police. It's license tag reading cameras. Some of the homeowner associations in Texas and Georgia and other places have installed it, and it seems to be working really well for them. Is that something that we can do here? And if we do install these LPR cameras, license plate reading cameras, can the police use footage from that camera for prosecution? Because you see, if you see a guy come and go, you can't trace it. But if you capture the license tag at 3:30 in the morning, the car coming into the neighborhood, and at 3:50 or whatever, leaving the neighborhood, and then there's also corroborating camera evidence that shows a car that's similar, can you use that to go after these people?
So, okay, a couple parts of that. Before I get to that, could I ask somebody to unmute my deputy commander, Joe Onderko, Onderko. Lieutenant Onderko, I think, has something to say. And while you're unmuting him, as far as the LPRs go, first of all, your private community, you can absolutely do that if you want. Although I would caution you, I would imagine some of your community members might have, I know if it was me, I might have some questions about who has access to that data, who's monitoring the tags, you know, is my tag being recorded every time I come and go? But that's a private issue for your community. I did reach out to our county attorney, and under many circumstances, we would be able to use those. However, most, not all, but most of these issues we have, these groups are coming in a stolen car or a car with stolen plates on them. So you might get a, 4K image of this tag, but if it's stolen, that's not going to help us do anything other than say, okay, they came in a stolen car. I would just give you that much. Joe, and you getting horrible feedback. Are you unmuted? No, doesn't look that way.
Did you want, so I think, Joe, did you want to say something? And Commander Palace, can you mute yourself?
I think I'm unmuted now, right? Okay, so my name's Lieutenant Joe Onderko. I'm a deputy commander in the 5th District. And I've probably been, I think, pretty safe in saying I've been doing this longer than anybody else here. I'm coming up on 31 years, all of it on the road. I started in Germantown, thinking I'm going to finish in Germantown. And I want to say this is nothing really new. With technology, everybody's got cell phones, everybody's got cameras. This has always been a problem. There may be an increase in it now, but we also know more about it now because everybody's watching. As both of those videos showed, it really does come down to keeping your car doors locked and making sure that nothing, if you have to leave something in your car, put it in a closed console, put it in the trunk, do something. I would prefer you take it in your house, but please don't leave it visible in your car, because on those examples we saw where people tried doors and they were locked and they walked away, had they seen an iPad or a cell phone or a coach purse or something in that vehicle, they would have broke the window, they would have taken it, they would have been gone. I've been in foot chases, I've been in all kinds of situations with folks doing this. It's been adults, it's been juveniles, it's been repeat offenders, it's been people I've never heard of before. This is something that literally, it was said before that it's a crime of opportunity, and that's the big thing. If we had an organized ring coming through here, we would know, because there would be such a number of cars that would be broken into in a short period of time, that's only done by these organized groups that move up and down the coast. Generally, in our case, it's locals or within this general area that are just out getting what they can get on any given night. But by what we call target hardening, and that's making your car as unappealing, your car, your home, anything, making it as unappealing to a criminal as you possibly can is the best case scenario. If my car's locked and there's nothing in it, and they try the door and they look in, they don't see anything, they're going to move on. If the next car is locked and it's got all that merchandise in it, they're going to break the window. But breaking the window on mine's not worth the risk to possibly get nothing when they get in there. So I know we need to just continue to hammer home, taking our belongings out of those vehicles and locking them up. I check mine every night before I go to bed, and I will often go over with the key fob and hit the lock button until the horn beeps, so I know for sure that it's locked. I know in my case that my key fobs are far enough away from my vehicles that somebody can't come up to them and try the door handle. It is interesting that if the key fob is within range and somebody comes up and pushes that button on your car door, that it will pop the locks. So that's something to consider based on where you know, how the layout of where your keys are in relation to your vehicles, that you may want to, you know, take a look at. And if it's too close, then you may want to change where you keep those keys. We're working as best we can. Nobody likes to deal with this on our end any more than you guys do. We're doing the best we can with this, but there's really, it's sometimes, unless we get a steady pattern, is the proverbial needle in the haystack. They pop up here, they pop up there. But when we do, our district has in particular 2 units which are uncontrolled. Most of your radio cars are controlled. They get dispatched for calls for service. We have a couple of units that I oversee that are uncontrolled. And when we have a problem in an area, we can stick them there. And they're not worried about getting calls and getting pulled out of that area and that kind of thing. So we do have options like that too. One other thing though on that, along those lines, I've heard the numbers here too, and the numbers don't sound as bad as anybody thought. Even being the police though, I would say that I'd be willing to bet that there's more cases that we don't know about, because everybody doesn't call when this happens. If this happens, you need to call. Sometimes they'll go in your car and somebody will come out the next morning and they'll find it. And as far as they can tell, nothing's missing, so they won't call the police. We need to know. We need to know about all these cases. So that's how we can know where it's picking up and where it isn't.
So is coding enough, or do they have to actually get a case ID for that incident to go into your database?
Well, they'll be given an event number if they call, but basically it's an attempt theft from auto. Whether they get anything or not, they should call the police. It's an easy enough process for officers to take the report. So they should call and end up with a number so that it's on file that this happened. That's the only way we're really going to be able to track everything that's going on.
So they need to make a case ID or a case number for that incident, correct?
If they call in, they'll end up with a case number for a report.
I think sometimes the operator will ask you, do you want a case number? And people say, no, that's all right, don't worry about it. And then it doesn't get into your database, right?
Well, it's given an event number, so there's always a number associated with it. If there's a report written, they get a case number. The call itself gets an event number, so they can be given that event number, and then there's a record of it.
Okay.
And I'll jump in on that real quick. So I get a list of all the calls run in our district every morning. All of us on this call do. And I actually go through and look for the theft from autos and kind of flag those and make sure that I have something associated with them. And put that in, I have an Excel spreadsheet of all the theft from autos in the 5th district this year, and it's color coded by area. So I have an idea. I'm on the Clarksburg Facebook page and all these other places. I see what's going on next door, neighbors. So I see what isn't being reported also. And sometimes it's frustrating when I actually see somebody, know who it is, can't track down somebody for that report because we could charge some of these things that aren't being reported, but I'm seeing on Facebook. It's not often, but occasionally there are things that we can do. And just along those lines of the, like I said, 15, 16 that I have from last week, 6 of those victims actually reported it. And the other ones I am trying to track down. So that goes to show that not even 50% of those victims had actually reported that their car had been broken into and their credit cards stolen or checks. It's all checks and credit cards that we're tracking down right now. So definitely underreported.
Question from Arun, does it happen more in the summer where juveniles have the summer break and the weather is nicer, or what do you think?
Yes and no. It's a nice weather crime typically, but there are some groups that take advantage of the bad weather. I have trends that will this time of year they go nonstop. It seems like November is a hot time of year right before the holidays. I know I've had a couple of trends that go, through November, December, January over the last couple of years. So it happens all times of the year and any kind of weather. They've been out in snowstorms. So.
Which one? Last one? Or one more? Let's see. Does the police have a line with language assistance? So
If you call our non-emergency number, which is 301-279-8000, 301-279-8000, they should be able to use translation assistance for that.
that's good. Another question is from Yvette. Can you please let me know the impact of Community Watch program? Is there a positive, negative? Community watches are during the day, during waking hours. I don't know anybody's doing community watch at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. So what do you think has an impact?
I'm always a fan of a community watch program. I think every neighborhood has a proverbial nosy neighbor. Those are the best neighbors to have. So although a little bit outside the scope of this, as the police department, we're always a fan of a neighborhood watch program.
Just make sure that, especially nowadays, if you see something, if you would implement a neighborhood watch thing, if you see something going on, please pick up the phone and call the police. Don't approach, get as much description as you can get. Don't try and go hands-on with anybody. Don't be cheap, because nowadays we simply, there seems to be guns seem to be more prevalent in a lot of these situations, and we just don't want anybody citizen-wise sticking in there. We'll take all the eyes we can get, but once you see something, then reach out to us and let us move on it, please.
There's a question. Yeah, go ahead. Was it? Did you want to say anything? Okay, there's a question from initials SG. We're getting alerts on neighborhood apps, gunshots, burglaries that come on the neighbors app. Is that reliable information? Are there gunshots being heard in different neighborhoods? And are you guys chasing that down?
I think it's a little bit of both. I'm on a next door. I live in the 5th district, and I will tell you where I live. Gunshots at night are very common. I have a lot of hunters around me, and so I would take everything you see on some of those sites with a grain of salt. And unless it's firsthand information, I wouldn't put too much stock into it. But as Lieutenant Durko said, quite frankly, the very best thing to do is if you actually witness something, if you see something, if you hear something, call 911 right away. And if you're in doubt, well, I'm not sure if this is an emergency or not, no problem. Just call 911. If you can't remember that non-emergency number, the dispatchers do a great job. Our communication center does a great job. If it happens to be not an emergency, they will reroute you. It is not a problem. But if you're like, I'm not sure, when in doubt, just call 911 and we'll figure it out from there.
Question from Manish Turi. Maybe please get stats on for cases solved or criminals caught. I know we get stats on incidents, but do we have any cases solved stats also?
Prosecution stats?
Well, it says cases solved for criminals caught. So I guess prosecution stats.
So I guess it would, we don't, every time we arrest somebody, we don't put that information out there. In some cases, for instance, the one Detective Jarrett's working on, it's one series, it's one investigation from one of our undercover units that has then spread out to a bunch of property that, as Detective Jarrett said, she is now trying to figure out. So that's actually a whole bunch of different cases. Tina, can you think of a good resource maybe that they could go to? I know there's one in the county that does the crime stat reporting, but as far as arrest, and I know Tina Lowe, Lowe is muted. So maybe if you could unmute her, or Tina, maybe if you could jump in the chat, if you can think of a resource for that. But we don't generally publish the names of or the updates. Okay, she's shaking her head no. The updates of our criminal investigations.
All right, so we're going to unmute Tina.
And I think Delegate Shi has a question also.
Tina Lowe, I think, okay.
Hi.
There we go.
Hi, my name's Tina Turco-Lowe. I'm the crime analyst at the Germantown Police Station. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a, where you would be able to get names for people that have been arrested. If you have a specific name, then yes. However, we do have a public resource where you can go and look at the reports that we respond to. And if there's an arrest made, then that would indicate it. Other than that, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you. So we don't have one that's readily available to the public, but it was, what was the result of the arrest?
Not that I know of. There may be one, but I'm not aware of it.
There's another question that is somewhat related to, it's about package thefts. Every time in my neighborhood, at least, we get emails that I ordered a package for you yesterday, I don't see it, did anyone get it? And we know it's gone. There's a lot of package theft also happening. Can you shed some light on what's going on and if they've been arrested?
Julie, you want that one?
So my partner tends to handle the package thefts. But the big joke is he always goes away at some point in November and December for a week each year. And that's when we tend to get an arrest, and somehow that falls into my lap also while he's gone. I can tell you that package theft is a crime that, as technology and Amazon and delivery and COVID has encouraged more of the delivery, that we are seeing a much higher rate of packages delivered, which increases their opportunity to commit those thefts. And as people are returning back to the office more, we are seeing that opportunity for those packages to sit there, and they are stealing packages. COVID has made the face mask something that is not looked at as strange anymore, even walking around outside. And I'm seeing a lot of face masks in videos, even at night in the theft from auto videos, there are a lot of face masks. But I can also tell you that we have a temporary assignment in our office right now that just started yesterday, and he was given a package theft that had a video, and we had the person identified before noon yesterday. So he's already handled that, has that typed up and ready to charge. When we have good video, we have a pretty good success rate of identifying the person. So cameras are the way to go for that. And when we get faces, we do have a pretty high success rate. And Clarksburg in particular, it was last April. There was a stolen car involved in that, and they were going around and stealing packages throughout Clarksburg. And I'm sure that maybe even somebody logged in here can say, we had that information and we were calling these people, hey, your package was stolen. Can you tell us what you had delivered today? And we can try to figure out what property belongs to you. And I think we had about a half dozen cases between Germantown and Clarksburg that day that we were able to return the property to them, and those individuals, which was a combination of juveniles and adults, were charged for both the auto theft and the package thefts. So we were able to handle that. And we had additionally, some of the victims had video and just hadn't even realized that their package was stolen, because we had caught it before most of them had returned home. So yes, package theft is up there. It is something that is not just the holidays anymore, but we expect to see that increasing here in December as we continue. So if you have cameras, make sure they're on.
Julie, can I add something to that as well?
Sure.
Just like theft from autos, people aren't reporting them. The retailers are making it very easy. They call in and say that they have not received their package. They get a replacement. Therefore, people are not reporting the crime. I don't want to say that it's victimless, but they're getting their property either way. So if you do have a package stolen, at least call it in so that we can track it. You know, we can get you a report number, and even though you do receive the property at the very end, you know, we can hopefully have a pattern or find a pattern or something that would help with that.
There is a question from Neeraj Jaiman. Have you seen any forced entry or home invasion events in Clarksburg? This is something that concerns a lot of people.
Tina or Julie, I don't recall any home invasions. I don't want to jinx anything, but no, that's, and again, I really hate to jinx this. So you have to understand that the 5th district is comprised of 242 square miles. We have obviously a limited number of officers. We work 24/7, and between myself, my command staff, of which Lieutenant Onderko is one of 3 lieutenants, Tina, who's our crime analyst, while obviously these crimes are important, we're also worried about homicides, we're worried about robberies, we're worried about burglaries, we're worried about rapes. So in aggregate, there's a lot more going on than just this. So we need to deploy our limited resources appropriately. For instance, I can tell you right now, one of my focuses right now is on the holiday season and ensuring that the residents of our county feel safe, and all the other district commanders are doing this too. But we're focusing a lot on the retail stores, because we have a lot of shoplifters. We have a lot of theft from autos that go on in the parking lots while people go in to shop. So we've actually got a pretty high enforcement detail, high visibility detail going on now through the end of the year. You're going to see a lot more officers out there with their blue lights on in the parking lots during the day and during the evening hours. That's one of our focuses. So I'm not saying we're not looking at the theft from auto situation right now, but with limited resources, myself and my command team have to figure out where we get the biggest bang for our buck and where we can make a difference and where we can make people feel safe. But as Lieutenant Onderko said, we also have some undercover assets and some other assets that we deploy kind of stealthily when we think there's a high probability that they're going to catch somebody. And when we do that, they're generally successful. So while I know we're looking at this through this lens here of this one particular crime, we've got an entire district, and all the other commanders have the same thing. But safety, personal crimes are our number one thing. And then obviously after that, we still focus on property crimes. But right now, our focus right now during the holiday season is to make sure all the businesses and all the holiday shoppers feel as safe, and we keep them as safe as possible.
Delegate Lily Chi had a question. Lily, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, officers, for your patience in answering detailed questions. I actually have a twofold question. First of all, I wonder, several of you mentioned that this is nothing new, and I understand, but do you have any data in terms of the county-wide concentration of such car-related, especially crimes? There has to be district by district, some kind of a comparative analysis to see where the concentration of growth is, right? Because it sounds like Clarksburg, it could be because it's more walkable or more convenient. It provides more opportunities for thieves to come in and take chances. I would love to hear your insights on that. And also a related question is, so far tonight, most of what I've heard from MCPD is mostly, locking your cars, not leaving any valuables inside, and prompt reporting. I think all of these things would probably prevent majority of crimes, but with the growth of the concern in the community, what are other measures that you are taking that could assure the communities that beyond their personal responsibilities, that we are doing everything we can? Is this a resource issue, or is this because the community is growing so fast that you can't really keep up with it or whatever? But I think we all need to do more as state and local government.
So
because what we don't want is communities taking matters into their own hands. Like community watch program is nice, but if driven to a point, we don't really want to see communities taking matters into their own hands when they shouldn't be.
Well, so far I have not seen any community members take anything into their own hand. I will repeat that we could probably have an 80% reduction in these crimes if people would simply lock their doors. As far as where these happen, Tina might be able to jump in. And as Lieutenant Onderko said, this has been happening for decades. It's wherever you have people is where these crimes occur. And when you obviously out in more of the urban areas, the rural areas where the houses are spread out, you have much less. So wherever you see the population is dense, that's where you have it. As far as resources, yes, when we have to focus on everything and not just this, I'd just be curious to know what people's, if you put in the chat, what would be your best guess as to how many officers we have available in the 5th District in the evening hours? And I'm not going to give you an exact number, but I'd be curious because I think part of this is definitely a public education piece. Anybody have any guesses as to how many officers are available?
I'm going to guess 25.
Yes, some of them are a little closer than others. The 45s and the 30s, you're way off. So when you have a handful of officers to cover 242 square miles, and we have to concentrate and we have to be available for the 911 calls. And if you think about it, if you have one domestic violence call or one robbery call, you're taking 2 or 3 officers out of service for an hour or two. So I wish I could just, 2 things. One, I wish that we had the data to predict where they would hit. And I guarantee you, I would put our SAT teams out there. And when we do have pattern crimes like that, we do put our SAT teams out there and they do make some phenomenal arrests. But when it comes to theft from auto, as Lieutenant Onderko said, it really is a needle in a haystack because, and I will tell you, I'm just looking at Clarksburg Village. In the past year, they were hit in a series in March, And because of the reporting times, I can't tell you it was March 11th at 2:45 in the morning, because some people were out of town, or some people will say, I don't have a Ring video kind of thing. So it was between these 2 nights. Then they were hit in September for a couple of days, and then they were hit in October. So if I'd have known that going in, of course, I would put the resources there. I would be happy to, but we just don't have that, that prediction capability at this point in time, and we are limited on resources. So we do target as soon as we see any sort of pattern, we do that. But I know it's beating a dead horse, and I know it's not the answer you want to hear. And I'm not a big numbers guy, right? I'm just a dumb cop. But if somebody tells me that we could reduce the crime by 80% simply by locking our doors, that's the number one. That's the low hanging fruit, and we need help with that, because we put these, for years we put out flyers, we put it out on Nextdoor, but we're not getting that help. And as Sir Robert Peel said, the community of the police and the police of the community. It can't be all on us to be out there. We need help with the community. We need the partnership. And I will tell you, I have my officers out there. They're making arrests, but they can't cover 242 square miles all the time, 24/7. It's just an impossibility. So we're doing the best we can. Like I said, we work with our crime analysts. We try to do data-driven policing is what we're trying to do. And that's what we're focusing on. But it would really be a big help if we had some help from the community.
If I could add something to that, I want to be clear on one thing. When I talked about how this has been going on since I started until now, I'm not trying to minimize what's going on now. We definitely have big instances of this going on all around the county and through the metropolitan area. And I'm not trying to say anything different. One of the things that I would like to bring to your attention, which I'm sure you already know, but maybe you've not thought about it this way before. Clarksburg is looked at least in my eyes when I drive through, as an affluent area, beautiful homes, beautiful vehicles. Somebody hit on it. Somebody said it's walkable. It has all these things going for it. You wanted this when the community was created. You wanted this town center atmosphere where people could mill about, walk about, and it's fantastic. But one of the things you need to understand is that people who are looking to make an easy score sometimes look for where are they going to head to. They're going to head to an affluent area because people have more money. They may have more valuable items. They may have fancier cars that they leave the keys in. They may leave their high ticket items in their vehicles. So that's what draws folks possibly to begin with. And when, as Commander Palace said, when they start having success, that's what brings them back. So the sooner we can limit their success, the more likely they are to go somewhere else. When I was a street sergeant in Bethesda, I ran a call one day with a girl in my shift who was there busy fingerprinting 4 vehicles that had been broken in. I say broken into, had been gone into in an individual's driveway. And when I was speaking with the homeowner about why weren't the vehicles locked, and I won't even get into the items that they had left in these vehicles, the gentleman looked at me and matter-of-factly said, "This is my driveway, and I live in Bethesda, and nobody should come in my driveway, and nobody should touch my stuff." And I looked at him and I said, "This is what folks are looking for. They want somebody that has high-end stuff and is going to have lots of merchandise to make it worth the risk to them." So you guys in the beautiful community that you have are going to be looked at as a possibility for somebody to come in and make a score off of your belongings in your vehicle if your cars are left open or whatnot. And I would never sit here and tell you that if you lock your car, there's a guarantee that it'll never be broken into. Same thing when I was on the road taking burglary reports, people would say, should I get an alarm? Should I get this? If somebody wants in bad enough, then they're going to find their way in, whether you have an alarm or not. But the harder you make it, the less appealing you make it for them without leaving anything visible for them to look at, the better chance they're going to pass you and move on. And that's the point that we're trying to hammer home at folks, is just make it as difficult as possible.
We just unmuted Julia Jarrett, did you have something to say?
Yeah, and actually kind of to build off what both the commander and Lieutenant Onderko said, I worked as Clarksburg was being built. I started in the department 17 years ago. I joke my career is going to follow the path of Clarksburg, and maybe by the time I hit 25 years for retirement, Clarksburg will be done being built. All those fields are now streets that I've had to learn, but it's very walkable. And that is an opportunity for the criminals to also have that same path that the residents love. And that helps them get around their community, especially when they know it. And then, you know, yes, it's definitely a more affluent neighborhood than some of the other surrounding areas. And along those lines, talking about cars and theft from autos, and then it ties in also with auto theft. And this September, October definitely had an increase in the auto thefts also. And I had said earlier, don't leave your key fobs in your car. I will tell you right now, when the commander was talking about how he would be willing to bet a paycheck or whatever it was, that the key was in the car. I have some background in auto theft also, and worked very closely with our former auto theft unit. And I can tell you right now, if you tell me the car, I can tell you whether it can be stolen with or without a key. In the majority of those cars, you must have a key to steal in this day and age with technology. Technology is a great tool for us when we use it right, but it's a great tool for the criminals when we take advantage of that technology and becomes lax. Those cars that are being stolen have the keys in them. That's just the only way to put it. And this is the stuff that we're seeing. And that's what kept bringing some of these groups into the community. They were looking for the cars and they could get into them. And it's as simple as, I watch some of these videos. They get in, they put their foot on the brake. It doesn't start. That's how most of your push start cars start. It doesn't start. They go and they go to the next car. We're seeing 2, 3, 4, 5 cars stolen a night by some of these groups. And they just keep moving along and ditching them when they find a better car. So those are some things that we need to think about going forward and making sure, especially with the holiday season, people become more forgetful as there's more stress. And we just need to think about that every night. Do I have my keys? Did I lock my car? Lock my doors, lock that door from my garage to my house? And just kind of make that a routine.
A question from Ting Chow. If a homeowner has videos, how should they send it to the police as evidence? Because typically they will call in with a phone. But is there a portal where they can upload that video with a case ID or something like that?
If they make a telephone report, I get those reports and I reach out to everybody that says that they have video. The commander also has a general 5D commander email that you can find on the Montgomery County Police website for the 5th District. And any email that he gets of cars that are broken into, he does forward those to me. So if you happen to have something and you don't make a report, but you still send that email, I have your information and I see that video and I put that into my video information database and know what we have going on with that also. So those are the 2 ways that we tend to get video.
A somewhat unrelated question from Nasheen Amirpur. First of all, she says, thanks for your service to the police officers. Are fireworks legal at neighborhoods with standing trees? Or are fireworks generally illegal, or are they allowed on certain days of the year?
I'm sorry, I can't see the, is this a question about fireworks?
Yeah, yes,
Yeah, generally fireworks are illegal in Montgomery County.
illegal. Yeah, it's out of the, it's illegal regardless, illegal regardless of your trees or no trees. Ah, another good question. Have you seen the recent policing reform laws that has affected staffing levels in the 5th District? Hindering advocate staffing needs to deter crime. So has that police reform regulations or laws, how has it impacted the police?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I'll answer it this way. I'm not going to give my opinion on that, but I will say, since that has come out in my 26 years, I've never seen as many officers leave the force as we have had, and I have not seen as much of a problem filling vacancies as we have had. I'll leave it at that.
Are you short-staffed right now, and by how many?
Yeah, basically every police department in the country right now is short-staffed. Our district is short-staffed by about 10 officers right now. We are actually in one of the best positions compared to the other districts. I will tell you that.
I see there are a couple questions about cameras. I have watched cameras from pretty much every company. There are some that I haven't even heard of. What I would say is talk to somebody that knows something. If you see somebody that posts a video that you like, ask them what they have. Many brands have great cameras, and start with the ones that you see out there. And like I said, if you see somebody that has an amazing video, ask them what they have. Those are usually your best ones, and they'll tell you how easy they are to use too. I can't tell you how easy some of these are. I can just tell you what I will look at. But talk to your friends, talk to the people posting the videos that you like that capture good things, and that's what I would suggest.
So a lot of homes have now cameras, and they keep getting better and less expensive on the homes. But those cameras still don't capture the license plates of the cars, so you can quickly find out, what vehicle was used. Now, granted, most of the cars are stolen, but you can get to that car or trace it to some other neighborhoods or where it's parked or something like that. So isn't LPRs a kind of a solution to you guys? Anyone in the police can answer that.
I would say that LPR can be an option, and it can be a very valuable tool. But as Commander Palace said earlier, most of the time, maybe not most of the time, a lot of the time, when these folks are using vehicles to get from area to area to commit these crimes, they're in a stolen car. So it's going to come back to, if they steal my car and your LPR takes a picture of the tag of that car in your neighborhood, the police are going to come talk to me, and I'm going to say, well, my car is stolen on my driveway. I'm not the one that did it. So it certainly can help potentially, but it's not a guarantee that they get the tag. The tag may not belong on that vehicle, or if it's somebody innocent that had their vehicle stolen, then that's not going to help us figure out in and of itself who was in that vehicle. But it certainly can be a valuable tool to help the police solve crimes.
Yes, I'll jump in with these stolen cars that we've had. The one night, and the video was posted on the Clarksburg town page, there was a caravan of cars. I can tell you where every car was stolen that night. I had reports for all of them. But at the same time, I can tell you that LPRs did assist us in knowing where those cars went after they left the 5th district. But that's just something that, as part of the investigation, we can look into what resources we have available. And that did tell us at least where they went at one point after they left the 5th district.
There's a question from Vinay. Can we put more cameras in intersections and get the HOA help with this? Do you use cameras on intersections to trace vehicles? Is that the images downloaded somewhere for 15 days or something like that, or?
Our traffic cameras in Montgomery County are live only. We generally can't use those to do any additional investigation. It's just live viewing.
Right. So we have a question from Arun. How do we tackle high school, middle school kids stealing bikes and abandoning them in the community? I don't know if that's an answer question.
Lock them, don't leave them laying in the yard. It's hard. Kids are the ones using the bikes. We have this discussion many times at our house with kids and how maybe they shouldn't stay in the front yard. But it's the same type thing. When there's that opportunity, some kids are just going to take that opportunity. It happens in every neighborhood, happens in our neighborhood here. Just try to take away that opportunity.
any specific recommendations for HOAs in Clarksburg? Anything that HOAs can do?
I think this whole call has been about recommendations and again, lock your cars. If you do have a theft or even attempt theft, please call us because as has been said at the very beginning, a lot of times you go out, you'll find maybe you think something's missing, maybe it's not, but you don't call us. If we're trying to use data-driven policing and we're missing half the data, we're going to be way off. So please don't hesitate to call and make a report. And I know sometimes it can be time consuming to wait for an officer to come out, or sometimes you can get it done over the phone. But please, every time you do that, that helps us help you. So please continue to do that.
And I would say for your HOAs, assuming you have, and I know everything's changed with COVID, a lot of it's gone to Zoom. Some people have gone back to in-person meeting type things. But look out for each other and at your meetings. And if you send out newsletters or what have you, hammer home to your folks to look out for each other. And what I mean by that is I know when my neighbors go to work, I know when they come home, I know the cars they drive and this type of situation right around in my neighborhood. So now granted, I'm always looking, no matter where I'm at. I can't turn it off at this point. So I'm always trying to see what looks normal and what doesn't look normal. But for anybody, if you know your neighbors are out of town and they told you, look, we're going to be out of town. We stopped our mail. We stopped the paper. No packages coming. Nobody should be coming to the house. They don't have any pets. And you show up look out the window one day and there's a vehicle in their driveway that looks, a couple of folks get out of it, look like they're maybe up to no good. Maybe it's time to give us a call and see what's going on. Keep an eye out for your neighbors. If we're all watching out for each other, not just in this regard, but with everything, we're all going to be a lot better off. And then sometimes I think people have forgotten that. People don't want to get involved, but obviously we need to lean on each other now more than ever to make everything work and keep everybody safe. So I'd hammer that home in any HOA meeting you have. Look out for your friends and neighbors. And nobody's ever going to say, what did you call the police for about this? I mean, that's absolutely not going to happen. If we get called out for that vehicle that's in the driveway, and it turns out that they were having a repairman come to do something one day while they were gone and they forgot to tell you that, we straight up tell them, we got this call. We don't tell them you called. We don't say that guy over there called us because he thought you were up to no good. We just tell them we got a call. We thank them for, talking with us, and we let them get back to their thing and we move on. But nobody at 911 or the police are going to yell at you if you call the police and it turns out to not necessarily be a police matter. And that's something I think people need to know too.
So as we are coming to a close, I'd like to thank police officer for staying longer than what we were expecting you to. So really appreciate it. If you've seen all the messages, there's a lot of messages for thanking you for your service, and we sincerely do that. We thank you for your service. I'd like to ask council members to say a few words before we wrap up. Takeaways is, as HOAs, we're going to look into LPRs, and we're going to talk about privacy issues, see if everyone has buy-in, if they don't care, if their license tag is red in the camera. The cameras typically hold 30 days of data, and then it's wiped out, so it doesn't go to anyone. But that is something that we will work with. We know that if the police can use from there, that's a good thing. So that's our takeaway for everybody else on the call. Takeaway would be if Governor Hogan was here, he would tell you, lock the damn car. So that's the takeaway, lock your cars. And I'd like to ask council members to say a few words.
Yeah, I'll just be brief. I'm going to take my mask off so you guys can hear me, but I do want to begin by thanking all the organizers of tonight's event in the community for gathering us here this evening. I especially do want to thank our officers. I know things have been tense and emotional this last year and a half in particular, but I continue to be incredibly impressed by their service, by their dedication, and I think we have a fantastic police department, one of the best in the country. We need to do more to support you guys, and I acknowledge and own that. I just got sworn in as council president yesterday. I look forward to working with the commander and his team, as well as all of our respective districts. The facts are that crime is up across the entire county, across the region, and across the country for a lot of reasons. And we know this last year has been disorienting, exhausting, and people are feeling it every day. So we have to do more to help, especially our youth upstream, to engage them in positive ways, whether it's through out of school time programs, whether it's through workforce development, ways. There's a lot more that we can do, but there are also, as has been noted tonight, common sense tips that each one of us can take as residents that we should take home and let our neighbors know about. The final thing I'll say, which hasn't been mentioned, and I was late, so it may have been mentioned early, is this is a regional issue and it's going to take a regional approach for us to fully address it. We had a briefing before the Public Safety Committee on the council on Monday, and Chief Jones talked about the work that's being done between the District of Columbia, Prince George's County, and Northern Virginia, collectively as a group, so that we can share information, share resources, provide tips to each other, because that is one of the best ways we're going to address this issue holistically. But this has been an incredibly informative event. I'll let everybody here know, Chairman Katz and I are attending another event in Silver Spring in a week. The community of Wheaton is organizing a similar event. East County is organizing a similar event because everyone is feeling the same pressure. You are not alone. It's not to make you feel better. It just shows that we have to spend more time and attention in this. And ending on a high note, or hope a high note, we were here, I looked up the program that was in the District of Columbia to subsidize cameras. I think it has a lot of merit. We're going to look into it and see if we might be able to implement that here.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you for the person who asked that question. Sydney?
And I'm just going to very, very quickly say, Gabe, I did mention that you were sworn in on Tuesday and you pretty much solved all the problems in Montgomery County already. So it's pretty impressive. But we stand ready to work together, and Gabe had said it all, but let me just say one more time that we sincerely thank our extremely great, beyond good, great police department. They do not get enough applause. They do not get the recognition that they deserve. We have gone through some very rough year and a half for a variety of reasons with COVID and all of those other situations. We need to make certain that our police officers realize how much they are appreciated. And to the earlier question about staffing, we need to make certain that we can do a better job recruiting. Right now, in Montgomery County, and this is an embarrassment, but in Montgomery County, our starting salaries are one of the lowest in the region. That has to change. That has to change this budget. And right now, and when we raise the starting salary, that means every salary along the way has to go up as well. So we are going to work on that. It is something that we all know is necessary to do, and we will continue to make certain that the education part of this is in the forefront, because as was said time and time again, if you can correct something 80%, if you can correct something 80%, do it. And if we need additional help, let's get additional help. But let's start with that 80% in the very beginning. Thank you for doing all this.
My pleasure. Great.
I think everything's been said. I want to say thank you again to the leadership. Thank you for the officers that are protecting us. And my job is to work closely with Commander Powers, which I do, and work with the county council, and our president of the council now. So I'm just a phone call away, but my job is to work closely with the community, and I will do that. So thank you very much.
We have two active members of Up-County. Mary Balcom, executive.
Hi, Marilyn Balcom, President of the Gaithersburg Germantown Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for having this. And I live in Germantown, and as it's been said, this is a problem that we've been working on for a very long time. So thank you.
Likewise, good evening, everybody. Will Roberts. I'm a Clarksburg resident, live just around the corner. Neighbors with each other. And the former chair of the Upcounty Citizens Advisory Board, as Greg was mentioning, an issue that came up in our meetings just recently as we, as the boards, and never anymore transitioned off, but as the board meets every month with the commanders from our district. So definitely an issue that lots of people across our community are trying to work together to solve, and look forward to continuing to do that with you also. Thanks so much for calling this dialogue together tonight.
Awesome. So folks, thanks all. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support. Thank you so much. And really appreciate it. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.